Hey witches, if you are enjoying Waking Up the Witch, then you're definitely going to want to check out my magical shop, Moonbee's Wellness in Medford, Oregon. We have a curated collection of crystals, incense, sage, witchy books, tarot, oracle, and so much magic made locally here in the Rogue Valley. Whether you're just beginning your witchy path or you've been on this journey for quite a while, we have so many items to support where you are in your journey. And we ship anywhere in the US, so no need to be local. But Moonbees is more than just a shop. We are also a sacred space and supportive to your healing journey. I'm a Reiki master, and I also offer a lot of intuitive sessions, including past life readings and past life regression sessions. And all of this can be done virtually online, so I can help you no matter where you're at. Come visit us in Southern Oregon or follow Moonbees Wellness on Instagram and Moonbees_Medford on TikTok. And remember, magic's this way.
This episode of Waking Up the Witch is brought to you by Taylar Pickett Styles. I'm Taylar Pickett, and I am an intuitive hairstylist in Southern Oregon. I offer in-person services as well as online tutorials on how to care for your curly hair, how to properly shampoo your hair. If you're a hairstylist, I offer lots of education and one-on-one consulting on how to build your clientele and take care of your clients. If you're interested in any of these services, please reach out to me. There will be a link in the bio. I also offer organic hair care from Innocence Organic Beauty, and you can also buy that online through me, link in the bio, and also on my Instagram page, Taylar Pickett Styles. I also have a TikTok page if you're into just talking a little bit more deeply about things, going into deeper dives about hair care, self-love, and self-worth. My TikTok handle is Southern Oregon Curl. And don't forget, tame nothing, nourish everything. Enjoy this episode. I'm Taylar.
And I'm Amber.
And this is
Waking Up the Witch. We're your neighborhood witches. Each week, we talk about all things witchy and connect with other humans in a storytelling format about navigating life on this floating rock.
We're two curious ladies trying to understand the human experience. But while we do that, we think it's important to honor the people that lived here before us and honor the cultures and traditions that we're being inspired by.
This podcast is about waking up the witch, which means we are learning and growing every day. That being said, we are always open to feedback on how we can do better.
The views and opinions of our guests don't necessarily reflect the views and opinions of Waking Up the Witch. Now, let's go, ghouls. Body, 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 body. Dang it.
I was going to do it, and I look at you, and I'm like, I can sense you're going to do it too.
That's amazing.
So good. Power to the vagina.
Pussy, pussy, pussy. Okay.
You'll get it at the end.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, not for you guys, but today is Cinco de Mayo on a Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday.
Too bad I'm grounded from eating out.
Oh,
it's fine. I have tacos at home.
I was just thinking about margaritas, though.
And a margarita. Well, I have tequila at home, but you're going to be here.
I'm going to be here all day.
Do you usually do your watches on Wednesday?
I switch it up depending on what my calendar allows. Tomorrow's Wednesday, and we're going to comedy show. So I was like, I guess Tuesday. And then I started taking Thursdays off. And so the last time I did it was on a Thursday, but it was like my day off. I've literally worked almost every single day off or been here like the past several weeks trying to adjust this new schedule. So
I know how that goes.
And I was like, Tuesdays are really long, but like, I mean, that's kind of nice to like sit on the couch and hang out and watch Bravo too. So
yeah, I can't today, but
Would you be willing to be here all day on a Tuesday for it, or is that just
Yeah, I just probably shouldn't go to the gym before because I left my house at 8 a.m.
Right. That's why I was like, my dogs are gonna be home all day. I think Mark has an in between, but anyways. So yeah, I might do that on Tuesdays because then I'm just here already, and it's a good open day.
Except for when we have our co-creation call.
Even then, because we'll be done at 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Body yada yada yada.
Maybe cut that out. I don't know. We watch Bravo here at Moonbees usually once a week. So if you're local and you like Bravo, you can come hang out at Moonbees and have a watch party with us. Yeah, so today was full and long. It's been really fun getting to chat to so many amazing people each week. I've really been looking forward to our Tuesdays. I've really been looking forward to this conversation. This is an amazing author from Red Wheel and Wiser, and someone that I've carried her books in my store for the past couple years. So when I saw her name as an option to request an interview, I got really excited because these books are just beautiful and attractive, and I've been wanting to dive in, and now I feel more inspired to. So if you have been hearing the call from Hekate, I know she's come up on our podcast quite a lot.
A lot.
This is a great episode to learn a little bit more about her. Cyndi has so much knowledge. She's been studying her for, I think she said 20 years or so, maybe longer. So she's a wealth of knowledge. She also has 7 placements in Gemini. So she literally is a teacher.
For a big brain.
She absorbs so much. She was just talking very beautifully, conversationally to us. Where I was like, holy cow, my brain I don't know if I know things like that. That's to that extent that I can just roll off my tongue. So it's pretty impressive. Really exciting. We certainly could have talked for much longer, but there's so much to talk about. So we're going to let you get into it because this one went a little longer than usual and it's full of knowledge. So buckle in, get ready to learn more about Hekate and the author Cyndi Brannen. But before we leave you, don't forget to go to patreon.com/wakingupthewitch for all the ways to connect with us and support this podcast. We have a lot of free offerings as well as some yummy paid offerings and just ways to get connected with us, chat with us. We also have upcoming our monthly Patreon co-creation call next week, which I'm really excited about. And I think when this comes out, it will also be in a week. So if you want to hang out with us and talk about your dreams with us, that's what we do every second Tuesday of the month. And it's
very fun.
So yummy. And right now it's so intimate.
It feels bestie vibes.
It's really good. So head over there to learn everything that we do. And then also while you're on the internet putting in web addresses, go to moonlightandmagic.org. This is our event company that we own with our friend Alicia. We do events all over the Rogue Valley and bring you amazing witchy vendors, readers, and magic makers. And maybe if you're out there not in Oregon listening to this, and you're like, that sounds so fun. You can learn about how to come and join us or support the movement because we're building a village and trying to bring community together. So
comment below. Let us know what you think about this video, how Hekate calls to you, and make sure to subscribe. You can watch this on YouTube, all the things.
Share with a friend.
Yeah, every little bit helps. So
yeah. And thanks for listening.
Enjoy.
Bitch. Do you want to or you need me to?
I can do it.
Yeah, you can.
Okay, if it feels safe, close your eyes. We're going to connect our breath and our energy and make a little container here. Take a big, deep breath in and release. This next breath in, Fill your lungs and your belly as much as possible. And we'll slowly release and empty the tank. This third breath, the deepest breath you've taken today. And really let it all. Let go of any worries, any to-dos, really becoming present in this moment. We ask that our higher self, our angels, and our guides and our goddesses be here today with us in this conversation and help bring forward anything that's meant for the collective. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Please introduce yourself. And if you know your big three, let us know what those are.
Okay, my name is Cyndi Brannen. I'm an author and an educator, High Priestess in Covina, Coven of Hekate. It's been running for about 9 years now. My big three, Scorpio ascendant,
Oh.
Gemini sun, and Libra moon. But I should also say that I have 7 placements in Gemini. So I'm like a super Gemini with Scorpio and Libra to try to sort out all that Gemini energy and give it some focus.
Oh, no wonder you're an author and an educator. Like, you have to be having so much Gemini. Amazing. And then the Scorpio and the work that you do makes so much sense. I love that. So good. Well, take us back to the beginning of your life and tell us all about you and how you became who you are today.
So first of all, I'll begin by saying I'm going to turn 58 in a month. So
happy almost birthday.
Thank you. Gemini, right?
Uh-huh.
And if we are going all the way back to the beginning, then we've got a long way to go. We were on Beltane, we were having our Sabbath ritual. And I was talking about this practice. I don't know where I picked it up, somewhere along the way, that on Beltane, if there's dew on the grass, if you go out and stand barefoot on the dew in the grass, it's very auspicious. You know, you'll find your true love and it'll bring good luck and so on. And I was telling this story because my wife and I went out and did that because it happened. It was perfect dew.
Cute.
And I asked someone else in the coven who's been like a practicing witch all of her adult life, like me. I said, do you remember this? Because my wife was like, I've never heard of that before. I was like, I don't even know. I just know this. I don't know where it came from. And I said to this other member, I said, do you know what I'm talking about? She's like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. and the other members were like, sounds like a great ritual to do. You know, basically, you know, they fancy it up and call it earthing today, right? So, and then I was joking. I said, well, we were there when they put up Stonehenge. So this is why we remember the old practices.
Right.
I love we're going all the way back to little going all the way back to when they put up Stonehenge. But I grew up in New Brunswick, Canada, very near the Maine border. So all my life I have been a cross-border person, you know, going back and forth to pick up groceries. To me, you know, the association between Canada and the United States is so close because of where I grew up.
Yeah.
So that's where I grew up, spending a lot of time, of course, in New Brunswick, but also a lot of time in Maine. And so that's where I grew up in that context. I grew up in a
beautiful area.
Yeah, definitely. Such a beautiful area. And I grew up in a very religious Christian family. They were Pentecostal. And I want to say that one of my earliest memories is that I did not fit in. And, you know, I've been doing this kind of work, spiritual teaching, for decades. And one of the things that keeps coming up for people who have similar upbringings like mine is that feeling that you're isolated within your own family, right?
Yeah, we hear that a lot on this podcast and the people that we
Second
talk
time
to.
today.
Yeah.
So I had that experience of being a misfit, but also I think like psychologically and spiritually and behaviorally, like I didn't fit in that world.
Right.
You know, I loved nature. I loved the woods. My dad also, even though he was very Christian, he loved the woods. And I grew up just loving nature and living in the world of imagination. And one of the funniest stories, I actually don't remember this story, but my mom, when she was alive, used to love to tell this story. So I lived in an imaginal world from an early age, and my mom did not understand this at all. So she thought there was something wrong with me. But she took me to the doctor. And you have to remember, this is probably like 1972 or 3. So she took me to the doctor because she was convinced there was something wrong with me. And the doctor told her it was just my imagination and that she just needed to keep an eye on me and not let me wander off too far.
7 placements in Gemini.
There was nothing wrong with me other than I had created this, you know, the world I lived in, my imaginary friends and talking to the trees and talking to the animals and, you know, playing with plants and all of these things. My mother thought that was definitely some kind of psychiatric diagnosis.
Well, one of our guests last week had an exorcism done, so at least you didn't get that.
I didn't know it didn't go that far because that's a Catholic thing, right? The Pentecostals are very anti-Catholic. So that was one of my other favorite pastimes. As a child, I would sneak go to mass at the Catholic Church.
Where all the rituals happening.
Where all the rituals. There's going to be some sacred smoke and candles. Enough of this Pentecostal stuff where you don't even drink real wine for communion.
That's what I'm saying.
I would get in so much trouble for that. Can I swear?
Please. We love swear. We want you to be real and authentic here.
Yeah. Okay. So, I would get in so much shit for sneak going to church. And just from a very early age, it was as though I had been born into this particular family to cause my mother upset. You know what I mean? Just my nature upset her. And then as I got older, you know, I loved to write. I loved to read. It was like I had been, you know, parachuted into a family that was as opposite to me as possible. And my parents did the best they could, you know, like but I was not at all what they had expected.
Did you have siblings?
Pardon me?
Did you have siblings?
I do. I have a wonderful sister. And she too was as opposite as what they could have expected. She's a witch too. And we're very, very close. And so
here to break cycles.
Here to do something. We're doing something. I'm not sure. So I grew up, I was very rebellious. I was very, what we used to call in the day, tomboyish. You know, I play girls soccer and girls hockey. And again, you've got to think this is the early 80s, late 70s. I know we take these things for granted now, women's sports. But basically, if it was something I could do to break a gender norm, I was there for it.
Love it.
Just by nature. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it would just, I looking back, I see the kind of consternation this must have caused my poor mother. But at the time, I was just trying to live my life and be myself, you know? And if someone young is watching this, you know, that's always my best advice. Just like, do you. Sometimes it will cause friction with your families or relationship partners or even friends. But as long as you are doing what you can to make yourself happy, you'll be okay.
Yes.
Right?
That is the medicine. Being authentic.
Yeah, so
you want more?
We want to know everything. So like you grew up, when did you first find like witchiness or goddesses or any of the things you're interested in? When did you start deconstructing your religious background?
So the religious background, I think I started deconstructing it by the time I went to kindergarten. And then it
Amazing.
just got, more and more. I was naturally ornery and, asking questions and not accepting things. And the whole idea of a male god somewhere in the sky never sat well with me. Like it never made any sense to me. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it just,
Totally.
Same. Yeah.
I'm not criticizing people that find comfort in that. But to me, I was just like, well, whatever that is not for me. So I just kind of floated through my teen years being myself. And then when I was in high school, I was in the advanced English class. Not surprising with all my Gemini.
Right.
That's right. Because another part of my rebellion was that, I was I did extremely well in school. And so in the class I was in at the time, we were like quite a dedicated group, almost like if you've ever seen that 80s movie, The Breakfast Club. It was in a big class. And we had worked through the curriculum for the whole year. And we had this sweet little tiny woman teacher. If you've ever seen the original Poltergeist movie, the woman the medium that comes to help them. Okay, think her, but with red hair.
Amazing. The voice too.
Yep. And so we'd worked through all the curriculum and done some extra things. And finally, she had all these old books in the back of the classroom. And she said, you can do whatever you want. Like we had like a whole month.
Amazing.
So I just went to rifle through the books that she had. And I found one book, which was a collection of poems and song lyrics from like the 1960s and 50s. So it introduced me to authors and songwriters such as Leonard Cohen, Buffy St. Marie, Bob Dylan, Simon Garfunkel. They were all in this book. So that was one big spiritual awakening for me.
Well, yeah. So were you like raised like no outside secular anything? So this is like
and
totally
I always
new.
pushed it. Like I loved heavy metal. Like I said, anything I could do to piss my parents off. Like I was 100% committed to it.
Wow.
And then
love that.
So I found that book, but then I also found this book of 17th and 18th century poetry. And maybe you've had moments like this in your life when it's just like all the things align and it takes you exactly where you're meant to be. So first there was like discovering this whole world of like folk songs and poetry from the 50s and 60s. And then in this, like it was one of those like old books, like you imagine, you think like an old book from the early 1900s. It was, with the onion-skin pages and the dusty, heavy cover.
Oh, the smell.
Yeah, and the smell. And then I was leafing through this book and I, discovered some poets that I still really admire today. But I discovered this poem called The Ode to Cynthia. Now, my full name is Cynthia. So you can imagine my little teenage self
calling you,
like, right?
Wow.
And I read it, and this poem not a lot of people are familiar with is, an ode to the goddess of the moon by Ben Jonson. And I didn't know goddesses existed until that point. I certainly didn't know my name meant a moon goddess. I knew none of these things.
Wow.
And so that was it for me. Like that was it. That was the moment. You know what I mean? Like the moment. Because, back in the early 80s, there were some witchy books out there. Certainly like Scott Cunningham had been writing books, things that I might have had access to. But I lived in a small town. It was very conservative. It was not a place where you could go to the bookstore and find esoteric or occult books very often. But what I had been doing throughout my whole childhood is I would go to the library and read occult and esoteric books.
Yes.
And then one time I got caught.
By your family?
Yes.
Oh.
So I would go to there was a small university, and my dad actually worked at this university in the physical plant in that side of things. And what I would do, and then looking back, I was like, Cyndi, why did you ever think you would get away with this scheme? It was not advisable. But this is back before a lot of things that we take for granted now, like the internet, for example.
Uh-huh.
And so I would somehow discover books that I wanted to read. And I would give my dad a list, and he would bring them home to me from the university library.
Okay.
And, it's the hubris of a teenager, right? Like thinking, he's not going to look in these books. Well, it's fine. It's going to be fine. How many times have I had them take books out of my room and, smash record albums and tell me I'm going to hell, whatever. This scheme will work.
You've learned nothing.
And it did work. It did work for a good while.
Wow. Amazing.
Because my dad was not a book reader, right? He read the Bible. That was the book that he read. But then I don't even remember what the book was, but whatever it was I had asked for, the librarian said, "Do you know what Cyndi is reading?"
Oh no. Damn it. This librarian calling you out.
The librarian outed me.
Dang it.
So.
And then what happened? Did you get in trouble?
Oh yeah, but I was always in trouble.
Yeah, you're like, whatever.
It was like, what am I in trouble for today? What have I been grounded for today? And once the punishment would happen, then I would get creative about ways to get around it.
Mm-hmm. I'm kind of impressed, growing up so religiously, and you, a young woman seeking so much knowledge, just thinking about how your dad, the book was the Bible. That's all that he read. And you're out seeking and sourcing information from the world. And that even for a little while, he was honoring that is kind of impressive in the 80s.
It is. And, it's also thinking back, I didn't have the internet. Yeah. I don't know how I was figuring these things out. I know I was obsessed with 17 magazine.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was allowed to have 17 magazine.
That's impressive.
I could not have Glamour and certainly not Cosmo.
No.
But I was allowed. And none of the other ones, like Tiger Beat, the teenage magazines. I wasn't allowed to any of those. But for whatever reason, 17 magazine was okay. So I always think, I don't remember what I was reading. But whatever I was reading was clearly pointing me in all kinds of directions.
Right.
Amazing. So once you got out of your parents' house, where'd you go? What'd you do?
As far away as possible, as quickly as possible after I was finished high school.
Where? House as
far
away
Ottawa,
as possible.
Ontario. I went to university to study journalism.
Mm-hmm.
I unexpectedly got pregnant with my oldest son when I was very young.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say that he saved me because I was quite self-destructive. Do you know what I mean? I had an eating disorder. I drank too much. I had a wild streak in me. And something about having him really settled me down.
No.
And
what's his sign?
Right. And I wanted to create a better life for the two of us. And so I took some time off after I had him, went through a lot. And then was able to go back to university. Took an undergraduate degree in psychology, then went to graduate school in psychology, got my master's degree, and then I got my PhD. So my PhD is in applied social psychology, and my specialization was close relationships.
Impressive.
Yeah,
especially
somehow I did
little.
That. Looking back, I'm like, how the fuck did you do this?
Yeah. Yeah, take that in for a moment. That's really impressive. and
Determination.
A
trying
lot
to
of
make a
things
better
happen.
life for yourself. And like, it's also no wonder that you had a destructive phase. I mean, you're already like a natural rebel, but then growing up in like oppressive religion too, I think you have to do the polar opposite and go out and explore who you are and discover who you are. And, you know, and if it's a healing journey too, which sometimes leads to some self-destruction as well.
Right. And I think, being like the age I am, I think it was because I grew up in an environment where everything was forbidden. And so I never
Right.
learned appropriate, healthy boundaries.
Totally.
And so I got into all kinds of trouble and, like sexual assault and just, being in the wrong place and being caught up in the wrong thing. And, of course, I'm not victim blaming at all, but I have a lot of miles between me and when all of this went down. My reflection is that, yes, obviously I was violated and bad things happened. I was young and I didn't know any better, but also growing up in the type of environment I grew up in, I didn't have the opportunity, to learn how to navigate the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Totally.
because everything was off limits. Like we couldn't go to a movie theater where you couldn't dance. You couldn't play pinball. Pinball was off
Oh
limits.
my gosh.
I also think like you're not taught to trust your gut or your intuition. So when you're in bad situations, you don't know, maybe, that's just like turned off for you.
I think I totally agree with that. I think that happens to a lot of young women, that, when we do have an intuition or something that, people around us can downplay it. And then so we get taught, conditioned, right, that our intuition is not valuable when in fact the opposite is true. And we, for me, I think a lot of it was I also got taught that fundamentally who I was wrong. I was fortunate that like I was just kind of born with a fighting spirit. So, even though I wasn't like beaten down by it the way, someone might be, it really left an impression on me that I just felt
Definitely.
fundamentally like I was a sinner and I was wrong and bad. And, that was just the conditioning from the environment that I was raised in. It was a very unhealthy kind of situation, and it's not, I don't want to like overly criticize my parents. They did the best they could. But at the same time, it was, it really contributed to my poor decision-making skills when I was a teenager. And it had consequences for my whole life, the poor decisions I made back then.
Did you stay in touch with your parents like after you had a child and like how was that relationship?
So the relationship, my son, TJ, he actually had a very healing impact on the relationship because I actually needed them.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to go back to school and I needed support from somebody because TJ's father was not supportive. We'll just leave it there. And so it actually was very, very healing. And I was able to, in the name of the greater good, I put a lot aside for the time being. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to do that. Like if someone young is listening to this, sometimes you have to do that. What is the greater good that needs to be served? And then, over the years when I was able, when I moved out, then I did keep my distance. I moved far away from them again. And then, I think my mother died in 2023, just, it's almost the third anniversary of her death. That we were able to have a moment in 2021 that I felt we had reached some resolution. Like as you age, if you have parents like this who fundamentally disagree with who you are as a person, and even though they say they love you, they don't approve of you. This is a horrible situation to place any human being in, isn't it? Like, I don't really get this. I have 2 kids of my own. I just don't understand
Same.
how parents can feed that line to their children. I love you, but I don't approve of who you are.
Yeah. So
I love you,
gross.
but I don't accept, I don't accept this part of you.
I love you, but is like
Mhm.
not
Isn't
a
that the worst
sentence
thing?
that should happen. Yeah.
But we did, my mom and I were able to have a bit of resolution. But I think a lot
Good.
of it for me was I just gave up
Yeah.
expecting her to be anything except what she was.
Yeah.
Life gets
Mhm.
so much easier if you have people like that in your life. Just if you stop hoping and
Yeah.
expecting them to act the way you
Yep.
think they should act,
Right.
if you can just let go of that, it's going to take you some therapy and some
Right.
ritual and a few nights crying at the moon. And,
Mhm.
but, if you can over time get to that point, your life will be so much easier. And so that's basically what it wasn't like she ever became my biggest fan. But I've got one funny story for you. You want a funny story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So when the Keeping Her Keys book came out, my first, the first book I wrote actually came out after the Keeping Her Keys book. It was just weird publishing things, how it worked. But when the Keeping Her Keys book came out, I was very proud of myself. I thought,
Yeah.
there's I've had a successful career. I figured out how to walk away from it and to finance, being able a single mom with 2 kids, being able to finance, following my dream of becoming a spiritual author. I've done
Huge.
this.
Yeah.
It's huge, right?
Huge accomplishment.
And, I would try to talk to her about it and it would get nowhere. And for me, that was really kind of that period of where it really clicked. Don't waste your breath on this.
Mhm.
You're never, what you find valuable and meaningful, she is never going to find valuable and meaningful. It's just not, it ain't happening. Give it up.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. So my mom joined Ancestry, the DNA matching website thing.
Mhm.
So my mom did not know much of her biological family tree. And due to the circumstances that she was born in. And lo and behold, her whole paternal biological family tree connected through the DNA on Ancestry. And she had brothers and sisters
Wow.
and, I had cousins and aunt and uncles and so did my sister. It was this whole thing. But one of my mom's sisters looked me up online and she was very proud to be related to
Oh.
me, and all these other things. And I don't know if my mother knew how to respond to that or had ever thought of me as anything other than a pain in the ass. And so, but this woman, my mother's sister, she asked my mother if I would sign a copy of the Keeping Her Keys book and send it to my mother, and my mother would pass it on to her.
Oh my goodness.
And I would have been, when did this probably happen? 9 years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm in my late 40s. And in that moment, this random stranger who has just been matched biologically to my mother through a website, this woman brought about the moment when my mother was finally proud of me.
Oh my goodness.
It was the weirdest thing.
Wow.
The
And my mom
universe
said,
is crazy.
yeah, the universe is crazy, right? And so because my mother's sister was so impressed, that, that I was related and it just my mother, it did very confusing things to my mother. That
Yeah,
whole
I'm sure.
experience, right?
For what you were seemingly famous for and this complete stranger, yet somebody that you have familial lineage with is kind of fangirling over you, essentially.
Right?
That's
And my mother
really sweet.
always just thought I was that weirdo,
Yeah.
right? Who just
No, I'm
watched.
actually kind of a big deal, Mom.
I'd love to hear about what career path you went down and how you decided to leave and start writing these books and how they came to you.
So I became an academic, specializing in health research. applied health research, staying within the vein of close relationships, and teaching at a university and working at a women's and children's hospital.
Amazing.
Really focusing on family well-being. Like my PhD was in relationships. Women's health was always like a specialty of mine. Women's like psychological health. And, ever since I had I always call it my Artemis moment, because Cynthia is an epithet of Artemis. Kinthos, Artemis, according to the myth, she was born on Mount Kinthos on the island of Delos. And so Latinized Kinthos becomes Cynthia.
Wow.
So, when I had my Artemis moment back in the back of the English classroom, I had always been pursuing this, like reading the books, like reading doing whatever, like kind of getting really into this and doing my own like personal rituals and so on. A lot of things to do with like the ocean and all of that kind of very like wild and free goddess spirituality. You know what I mean? Even though I was reading books, it was just kind of whatever we would plan. My sister and I had a good friend who was into it. And again, like this is the 80s and into the 90s. And I'm a busy single mom going to university. And I know a lot of people were like watching The Craft or whatever that. I had, to this day, here's a confession. To this day, I have not watched The Craft.
Oh, well, you should.
Cyndi,
it's a really good movie.
It just celebrated its 30th anniversary. It is time.
Someone sent me a copy of it years ago. I have the DVD of it, and it kind of sits, like in the entertainment thing under the TV.
Maybe today.
And I'll be like, I should really watch it. And I'm like, no, I think it's more like a badge of honor at this point that I've never watched it. You know what I mean? Like I have never watched it.
You don't have to be so different. You can. It's really good.
It's a great movie. Okay.
Yeah.
You're gonna watch it and be like, why have I never watched this movie?
We don't have to tell anyone.
But I didn't have time for a lot of
right. We get that.
Going. And I was working. I should say I was working full time too. I had a horrible call center job, selling credit card insurance at night.
Yeah, I feel like the 90s were like full of call center jobs.
I tried to work at a call center.
I had friends that like worked in call center jobs. My mom like worked in call center jobs for a really long time. It's crazy. Anyways,
it was crazy. For my what was it? I think I made like $4.25 an hour or $6.15 an hour.
Wow, that's crazy. So,
crazy.
What was your first book
that I wrote? Or
yep.
What are we talking?
Yeah, the first book that you wrote.
So back quite some time ago, locally where I live in Nova Scotia, I started teaching. Like at weekends, I would have like workshops in my house. And I would go to different like goddessy pagan events and teach workshops, because in my career as a researcher, something I had noticed was that I focused a lot on coping skills, like how women cope with caregiving, like for sick children or for people with AIDS and so on. And something that I really noticed, like doing the kind of grounded theory work I was doing at that time, was this idea of like spiritual coping. Right. So I became, I'd always been curious about this, always doing kind of my own little rituals, and became kind of obsessed with the idea of how goddess-centered spirituality can actually be like the missing piece in like women's healing and empowerment for those that it feels right for. And, this was not something I could put into my mainstream work. Again, always the rebel, like it's in my nature. And so I started teaching these workshops at the weekends and doing events, focusing on guided meditations, I didn't call them spells or rituals at the time. I would call it like energy work, trying to like not violate the terms of my contract with the hospital and the university so I wouldn't get fired. And really, that's how it all got started. But like that dates back almost 2 decades now when I started doing that. And then the more I kind of got into it, the more like it felt real and true to me. Like it felt like a spiritual home. You know, we had a class yesterday in my coven, and we do a thing at the start of the weekly seminars where everyone who wants to share their work based on the key questions from the previous week, they can share their work with those questions. They can, answer one of the questions, and we talk it through in a, kind of a sacred, protected space. And, and someone was saying that when she finally connected with Hekate and her practice now and being amongst us, like in the course that she's taken in the coven, she feels like she's found her spiritual home, and she had spent her whole life feeling adrift. And, for me, like I know that feeling. And so the more I kind of went into the world of goddesses and ritual and all of that, the more I felt like I was orienting towards my home base for the first time in my life. And so a bunch of things happened, as they often do, during your late 30s and early 40s. And none of them were good at the time, but, it forced me to show up in my own life. And I just, like, I did what I needed to do to create enough security so me and my boys would not end up homeless if I walked away. I don't come from a family with money. I didn't have savings, all these things that usually prevent someone from kind of transitioning to a whole new career scape, because a lot of people are just trapped in the cycle of having to put a roof over their heads. Like, you know what I mean?
Totally.
And I did the things I needed to do and was able to step away because I was always getting in trouble at work for being too. I had a little website up at one point, and I got called in by my boss. I was fairly high up the food chain, and so my boss was a vice president of the hospital. And he just reamed me out for this. Like, you got to shut down the website. And this was just like this tension between me and him.
Gosh.
And again, I was born to be a rebel. I can't help it. And so, like I said, eventually I got to the place where we packed up. I sold my house in the city. We moved to a teeny tiny little fishing village, and I began again.
I love a restart.
Right? The hard restart, but it takes risk. Like, this is the thing. It could have all gone in a very different direction, but Hail Hekate.
Well, when you are like not able to have your own life outside of work, like that's like affecting your position there, that's not safe and secure either. That like that could disappear, that's being threatened. And like when you're facing that, is like, do I choose to be myself and like continue down this thing that's really meaningful, or to like stay scared to make sure that I have a roof over my head? Like, that's such a challenge. And yeah, you really do have to like take that leap of faith and choose yourself. And I'm glad that you did. That's crazy.
You asked me my first book, True Magic. This is, I've never been crazy about the name, but it's based on this course that I used to teach back then called The Sacred Seven. And so this book, it weaves together meditation, working with correspondences, ritual. It's really an intro to like witchcraft as I see it.
Love it.
Which is why the publisher wanted to call it that. But to me, it's based on the Sacred Seven, the original 7 wandering stars, the Hermetic principles. Like, there's a lot of depth to, and I'd been teaching this course for a very long time and had the book. And then when I finally sold the Keeping Your Keys book, the publisher was like, what else you got? And I was like, well, I've been trying to sell this book for a long time.
Yeah.
And they bought it. And so they both came out just months apart, which is funny when you think about it. It's like, how did you write a book so fast? It was like, it was written.
That's how it goes.
Yeah. What is keeping her keys?
Well, Keeping Her Keys is the name of my work. And also the name of the website, name of the blog. What do I have on there? It's a reminder from my wife. So this is the first book that I wrote about modern Hecate witchcraft.
Wow.
It came out, I believe, in around Beltane in 2018. I think that's right. Maybe 2019. Don't quote me on the 2018ness. And I do know that last year, like early 2025, it went into its second edition. So
Okay, cool.
if anyone's listening and they're like, well, do I buy the original edition or the second edition? I'm the author, buy the second edition. I did the second edition myself, and I worked with a professional copywriter, and definitely this is the edition you want because
Cool. We'll have to get that one. We don't have that one here.
So that was the very first book, and it's done incredibly well for itself.
Amazing.
I always
What
think
led
my
you-
books like little spirits. Like, I'm just there.
Totally.
I burst them into the world. I help them
Yeah.
along. I'm
I
like,
totally agree with that.
She's done well for herself.
Any form of creation really is that. It totally has its
Yeah.
own energy. Well, you write a lot of books on Hecate. Like,
where I was going with this.
how were you called to work with her and go so deeply and bring out so much information and beauty about her?
I also want to pause because Hecate comes up a lot on this podcast, and I
Yeah.
don't think that we've really dove into what that even means. And this is very much can be like a baby witch podcast.
Mhm.
So if we could start there, and then how you got called to work with her.
Okay, sure. So Hecate, there's other pronunciations. I say it Hecate. Say it how it feels right to you.
I like that.
That's what's most important. Hecate is an ancient goddess with her roots in Caria, which is Western modern day Turkey. She was adopted by the Greeks and became part of, in some parts of the ancient Mediterranean, she became a goddess that was part of spiritual practice for some Greeks. And because we have so much archaeological evidence from ancient Greece, it tends to be said that Hecate was a Greek goddess, but in fact, her origins are much, much older than what we might think of as the classical Greek world. And she was not Greek in origin. And the Greeks, interestingly, they never saw her as Greek. You know what I mean? Like, she wasn't Artemis. She wasn't Aphrodite. In the Greek world, she was the one from afar, which is one possible interpretation of her name. And if you look at the archaeological evidence and the way she is discussed, whether we're looking at a magical text, like a curse tablet, or a collection of fragments known as the Greek magical papyri, or in actual artifacts, we see that Hecate is never widely seen as belonging among the main deities that the Greeks were involved in. Now, there are some notable exceptions in certain areas, but overall, let's compare her to Artemis. Artemis was the most popular goddess of that period, that 1,000-year period, roughly, leading up to the start of the Common Era, which some people might think of before Christ and after Christ crucifixion or whatever that is, but the more applicable terms are before the Common Era and after the Common Era. And we see this, Hecate is placed at the entrance to temples Hecate is placed at the entrance to homes. She is placed at boundaries within towns. She is placed along crossroads, but she is not, like I said, for the most part, ever placed within a temple.
Interesting.
Unlike Artemis, who was the most popular goddess, and I think I remember reading somewhere like there were like 1,000 temples to Artemis. Like Artemis was the
Wow.
number one goddess. The Greeks loved her. And her like she has many different forms as well, but so Hecate was always separate, and she was always about the threshold, the liminal, and carried that energy of being from afar, of being a foreigner to the Greeks. And fortunately, they have done a lot of archaeological work in Turkey. And, now there is hard evidence about Hecate's center of worship was actually at Lagina, in this region of Caria, and very much associated with a few other towns in this region. There's multiple towns. And they've been doing a lot of archaeological work in these areas. So the evidence is pretty clear that
Cool.
Hecate in this part of the world, Hecate was a great mother goddess figure. She was a civic goddess, which means, I think the best analogy for those of us who live in North America, well, not, sometimes in the United States, how the way Christianity is like a civic religion, like in God we trust, that. So, think of Hecate, but that's Hecate, right? Like she's a civic goddess,
Love it.
right? In Hecate we trust. Well, that applies to me.
Us too.
Right? And
So what does
you
she
know,
represent?
so I always like to talk a little bit about the history because it's complex. Do you know what I mean? Like people can perceive Hecate however they like, but I do kind of, as someone who's been writing and teaching about Hecate for a long time before she became trendy, that I like to say, can we just clear up a few things about her origins? Can we clear that up?
I definitely started a different book recently that didn't say any of that. It was way more like broad, but it's like I didn't hear like the complexities and the diversity and all of that you mentioned.
Right. I mean, she likely maybe even has older roots that stretch towards India. And then there's the Egyptian goddess Hecate, who, may or may not be somehow linked to Hecate. So
do you think this could be like incarnations of her, or do you think they're just like the stories being passed down and losing some of the truth?
I mean, I think all of that, right?
Yeah.
Right? We weren't
Because
there.
that's fascinating.
And that's part of the mystery, right? Which I think Hecate always walks with the mystery trailing behind her. So, who is Hecate? She is the threshold. She is the in-between. She is the mystery. She is the dark moon. She is at her essence, like that space between all things. Right? I mean, so if you are like me and you see that it's very much in keeping with like a great mother goddess figure, then, that might be a way to kind of see it. But if you want to see it a different way, I'm not going to argue with anyone about this. But for me, looking, as a scholar of the research, the archaeological evidence, and also Greek literature at the time, and having been doing this, researching Hecate for 20 years now, it's difficult to say Hecate is this. We often say, well, she's the queen of the witches. And I think she definitely is, because I think modern witchcraft is very much about being in the in-between, being the space in between. When we talk about like casting a spell and working with correspondences in order to summon their essence into a spell, we go into that in between, right? We are physical beings, and if it's like a correspondence like a plant, it is also a physical being. And where do we meet? We meet in the deeper essence. Like that is Hecate, right? Like that is that what can't be seen. It's the mystery. What can't be, what you can't put on a table and quantify.
Mm-hmm.
She's the dark moon. Like she is that, because the moon still exists when it's dark.
Mm-hmm.
We just can't see it. So,
Mm-hmm.
so I know she's very popularly labeled as a goddess of witches. And, there are historical references to her being associated with witchcraft, but going back to like ancient Greek and Roman records, there's references of a lot of goddesses being invoked in magic
Mm-hmm.
spells and so on.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't a standalone, but then a lot of her association with witchcraft kind of comes out of the Middle Ages and reaches a pinnacle when Shakespeare put her in Macbeth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where a lot of that comes from, about her association. So yes, she's always been associated with magic. And at the same time, the history of Hecate and the history of the witch is so intertwined and
Mm-hmm.
complex and nuanced. So that's a long way of explaining who is Hecate. The threshold, crossroads,
Yeah.
being able to move in any realm, the lower world, middle world, upper world, but not being restricted to anyone. Magic, the soul, working with spirits. Psychopomp is one of her like most enduring roles, the ability to guide souls to and from the afterlife. Certainly in my practice, based on the history, Corotrophus, Aletheia, aspects of Hecate that were deeply associated with childbirth and children.
Mm-hmm.
And that, interestingly, there's two certain Greek rituals that were centered around Hecate. And one is the dipnon, offering Hecate an apotropaic supper, which is a protective supper, like you would take Hecate's supper to the crossroads. It was a bit of an insurance policy. You would do this. We know that existed for sure from multiple sources. And the other that we know existed for sure is, and even have the dates in the Greek calendar for, is honoring Hecate as Corotrophus, guardian of children. So, I certainly, like as a mother myself, that makes a lot of sense to me, because childhood and a goddess who works with souls and magic and spirits and is very protective, it makes sense, because, childhood is the most magical time of life and also the most liminal time of life.
Mm-hmm.
Like the other end is as well. And that's exactly what childbirth is too, right? It is that threshold of life and death. Certainly in the ancient world. So
Yeah.
I think that's who she is. She's the threshold, and, individual experience of her will vary.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
she will come to you.
oh, sorry.
I was just going to
I
say,
think you were leaning into that. Yeah.
she will come to you
Yeah.
as you are meant to perceive her, and
Yeah.
just dwell in that. Don't fuss. Hecate is not a egomaniac goddess that will get offended by
I love that.
the things we do or don't do.
So I own a little witchy boutique here in Southern Oregon, and I've had over the years many people were starting to come up here, like very intrigued by Hecate. They're being quote unquote called by her, and I didn't know much in the beginning about her specifically. And so I started to do a little bit of research. I found your books actually, and that was like one of the first reference materials I brought into the shop for people, because it just kept happening. And then I started to realize, oh, by these people coming in and asking me about Hecate, well, she may be also calling me. Like that's kind of part of the call, like it's showing up very
Yep.
presently, right? And I know like nowadays too, like we all are so much more connected through social media and et cetera. And a lot of people on TikTok specifically, where they're like kind of discovering or hearing about Hecate and it's coming through. So there is kind of this sense that I've learned is like, she does kind of call you, she does kind of find you. And she's like,
Yeah.
ready to work with you. Do you have like a specific story for yourself of like when she kept kind of nudging you where you're like, okay, answer the call?
So I had been involved with goddesses, like I mentioned, starting in my teen years. I was, Artemis, of course, was very important to me and still is. Persephone, I think a lot of young women in their
Yeah.
20s need to spend some time with Persephone. And over the years, I was usually in some type of goddess, witchy circle. So I was very involved, like immersed in the goddessy world, with Isis, and knew of Hecate, and thought she was interesting. I mean, she was not a popular, you could not find, the reason I wrote the Keeping Your Keys books, because with the exception of a few books published by Sarita Deste, and one other book that was like a personal devotional to Hecate and an anthology on Hecate from Alexandria Press, like there were no books on Hecate when I wrote the Keeping Our Keys book. But part of why I wrote it was I wanted to share my experiences of Hecate. So how I was called was one night I was in the basement, in liminal spaces in the down below and, very that kind of energy, and was folding laundry of all things late at night, exhausted. And I just heard this voice in my head say, "It's time." And this is over 15 years ago now. And I knew it was Hecate. Like I knew it. Do you know what I mean? Like I
Oh,
knew
yeah.
it. Like the way I know the names of my sons. Like I knew it was Hecate. It was unmistakable. And that really, Hecate has a way of scaring the life into us. If, like when she shows up. So that's when it all began to change. But at the same time, I had been deep in the goddess world for a long time at this point. Like, but sometimes I'm like, I don't have I was doing a dark moon ritual on a seaside cliff.
Yeah.
I've done lots of those, but it wasn't that moment. It was when I was so tired that I got outside of myself and got out of my own way. And I could just be in like a divine presence. I don't know, that those kind of experiences are so life-changing, and I'm super fortunate to have had a few of them.
Yeah, I love it. And then so after Keeping Her Keys, did that then turn into the next 3 books that we have here?
It did.
And so, yeah, I'm curious. I haven't dove in yet, but what is it called? The book, like, is just so stunning. The artwork and the way that it's delivered, like, it's a very attractive looking book, or all 3 of them are actually. But, yeah, take us on like a quick little journey with that. We have the garden, the cave, and the cauldron. Like, what are the differences? Which one came after which one? And what might people expect to find within each of them?
So this one came first,
Mm-hmm.
and this is botanical witchcraft, plant spirit witchcraft, green witchcraft. So it has rituals for ways to connect with plant spirits, which is very important in my practice. And 39 plants. I try to include a diverse range of plants, not just like the ones that you might kind of expect, but there are the ones that we would expect, like mugwort and lavender, some of the more accessible ones. And then some poisons, because I do like to work with poisons. I think I've got aconite and maybe mandrake or mayapple.
Lots
It's
of people
American cousin,
planting their poison gardens this year.
right? And then some things that we all know, like what else is in here? So there's 39 monographs for 39 plants. Every plant has multiple workings to go with it. And just looking to see if I'm forgetting anything. Yeah,
So it's
39
like
plants.
a great
There's a front here.
a good book of herbs and herbal practices with a little Hecate twist to it.
Yeah, rooted in the metaphor of Hecate's garden.
Love.
So one of the most kind of compelling pieces of a myth that really lit up for me and said, like, this is for you, Cyndi. I was reading a text about the story of of Medea. And in this one translation, like Medea gets a love spell put on her. So she falls in love with this guy, Jason. And this guy, Jason, wants her to go and steal something from like a sacred garden. And it's guarded by like this serpent dragon creature. And he wants this fancy fleece because it'll make him a super powerful dude. And so they go into this garden. And again, Medea's already been put under an enchantment to do what Jason wants. And she does her incantations and so on. And, she gets this thing that he wants. But in the translation I was reading, they referred to this sacred garden as Hecate's garden.
Okay.
And there is a list. This is it from the Orphic Argonautica, which is an ancient text. There's a list in this that goes into all of the plants that were in Hecate's garden. And when I discovered this, it was just like all the magic happened. Like it just came to life for me. And so it's not like a little Hecate on the side. It's centered in the mythology of, Hecate's garden being an alternative to the Garden of Eden. And perhaps a story older than the Christian story of the Garden of Eden. If you see the similarities there between Eve and the snake and Medea and the dragon, there's evidence that it's probably a much older story, that Hecate's garden was there long before.
So fun.
And that really meant a lot to me. And I wanted to make it, honor that kind of mythological origin and also make it practical, something that the average witch, whether you're new or experienced, like, oh yeah, like I have some dandelion, I can do this thing, or, I have this and I can do this thing.
Yeah.
And then more elaborate, because sometimes we do like have the capability of doing a more elaborate ritual, but sometimes we just need to do something in the moment. So I wanted that kind of like very practical book, and at the same time carry that spirit of Hecate's garden forward in a kind of an act of like reclamation of like the goddess's garden, and take it away from the hands of the Christian God.
Yes.
Yeah.
We love that.
I just want to keep us kind of like on time. So if we could quickly just like acknowledge the other two books and then kind of tell listeners how they can work with Hecate themselves. Because we have about like 20 minutes left here. So I just want to make
book
sure we
2?
touch. Yeah.
Okay.
Hecate's Cave.
This is shadow work. Okay. Centered around 3 deep rituals and a lot of convergence of spirituality aspects of Hecate and modern psychological evidence-based approaches. That's what this is. Shadow work. Really drawing from my previous career. And this one is fun. This is like a book of shadows. This is spells. There's Hecate's history. This is the final book that I wrote about Hecate. And this is like my book of shadows that I wanted to share.
Sweet.
Yeah. So it's it's a fun book. This is I would say if someone's completely new, this is great.
Start with the Cauldron.
If you love your green witchcraft and Medea and Hecate and Circe, because Circe is important in this book as well, this is your book.
That's
and
the
if you
Hecate's
feel
garden.
And entering Hecate's cave, if Hecate called you and it's about healing from trauma and shadow work, this is your book.
Hecate's Cave.
And then if you're just interested in Hecate and you want a little bit of everything, Keeping Her Keys.
Amazing.
Yeah. Amazing.
So cool. What are like 3 easy ways that people could begin working with Hecate if they feel like they're being called to?
I think the easiest way to connect with Hecate is to get quiet and listen. If someone is so inclined, you can sit in a darkened room with a candle and soften your gaze into a candle and simply speak her name and say, I'm here and I am willing to listen. But you don't need a lot of fuss. I love my fuss. I love my rituals and all of that. But at the same time, just sit, call her name and listen.
I think that's a good reminder here. We always try to tell people, like, you don't have to have all the fancy shit. You don't have to have the specific herb. You don't have to have the specific candle. Like, work with what you have, and your intention is always the magic.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Your sincerity, like that. And that's, I think, is step number 1. Step number 2, make an offering to Hecate. And the first offering you should offer Hecate is perfectionism.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Like releasing your perfectionism to her?
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah. Giving it up to her. The whole spirit of making offerings is about something that is meaningful to us. And, like you said, people, especially beginner witches, can get so consumed with, well, I need to do it this way, or I saw this TikTok video about Hecate, and she said this about Hecate.
Right.
And, it's like, just give her your perfectionism and allow yourself to be present, right?
I heard she also likes wine.
She likes wine too.
Yeah, I read that somewhere.
We don't have to give her wine. Like, I don't want anyone to think, like, well, now I've got to give Hecate wine. No.
Yeah, I mean, I like wine, so
right?
Yeah, enjoy it together.
So I'll just share some of my wine with Hecate.
Yeah.
We always do that here. We always put pour the dregs of a bottle of wine to the spirit of the place and Hecate here.
Love it.
So that's it. I think get quiet.
Yeah.
Get a candle.
I like that.
Hecate is the sacred flame. She's the torchbearer.
Yeah.
And just think about the flame and its meaning and symbolism. Set up some kind of sacred space, but it should be uniquely yours. Maybe have a candle, LED or a regular candle, whatever works.
Yeah.
A picture of a candle. And set aside some time every day to connect, not just with Hecate, but with yourself,
right,
and any other spirits that you connect with. Just make it a priority. Don't, that a few moments, stand before your altar and, talk to her. I really like letter writing. Again, it's not a thing that costs a lot of money. Just write her a letter as an offering, right? Tell her what you're going through.
Yeah.
These are the types of, like, the meaningful personal practices are the ones that I'll always advocate for. Of course, the dark moon or the astronomical new moon is, from antiquity, is a special night of devotion to Hecate. So that is a great time to make an offering. If you want to do a more traditional offering, look in the Cauldron book. I go into detail about what was in these ancient Hecate suppers. Or they go to a crossroads, write her a letter, leave it there. Wear a key around your neck and see that key as a sacred connection.
I love it.
So great.
I think there's so many things to do, but they don't have to be dogmatic. And I really resist any kind of dogmatic approaches to goddesses in general. You know what I mean?
Let's all be rebels like Cyndi.
Right?
I love
Let's all do our own thing. Like, let's all be our own sacred selves.
Yeah.
So aside from your books, is there any way people can work with you?
I've been leading a coven, which really is like a spiritual education, goddess-centered witchcraft organization online for years now, and that's called Covina. And right now we just started a new course called Hecate's Keys of the Cauldrons. So you can learn more about anything that I have mentioned in terms of what I do at keepingherkeys.com.
And we'll have all of that in the show notes too for listeners. So you can click on this episode and drop down all the notes. You'll have all of Cyndi's links and ways to connect with her there too. I love it. Any last little bow tie you'd like to add to your story before we start to close things out and move into our final parts?
Just hail Hekate and stay in your magic. That's
Yes.
it, right?
Fuck yeah.
Amen.
And fuck yeah, that's right. Fuck yeah.
Fuck
Yeah.
yeah. So we have 2 questions we love to ask all of our guests. And the first one
Okay.
is, what do you do for self-care that you just can't live without?
Oh, that's a good question.
Mhm.
I extrovert until I introvert, and then I introvert all the way.
I'm obsessed. That's exactly how I
Same.
feel.
Love that.
And to
Right?
think of that as a form of self-care is
Yeah.
that just flipped a script for me. So thank you. Love it.
If you could tell your younger self at any point one thing, what would it be?
It's all going to be okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
it always is. It's
Yeah.
always exactly what it's supposed to be.
Mhm. We would be super honored if you would pull a card for us.
I would love to pull a card. So I have chosen a deck I've had for a few months now called the Dark Goddess Tarot.
So
And
beautiful.
and it is by Ellen Lorenzi Prince. I don't think this is a particularly new deck, but I was looking for a deck that had some more obscure goddesses in it. I really like this deck. It's got some of our favorites, the Morrigan, for example. But then it has it does a great job. There's indigenous goddesses and spirits like Sedna, who I know is getting quite popular. Some of my personal favorites like the Pythia. So I bought this deck, and we've been working with it for probably 4 months now. Do a lot of readings in the Coven. We do a witch's hour on Saturday morning, so we
Cute.
do readings, and I really like this deck so far. I am old school, and I like to get to know a deck.
Yeah.
And I say, well, I've only been working with it for 4 months. Like, I have my beloveds that are like
Oh, yeah.
best friends. So this is a great deck. So I will pull a card. Let me see. Let's go with this one. Oh, beloved Babo.
Such a pretty card. Wow.
Do you all know who Babo is?
No.
Oh, this is why she came up today, because you need to get to know Babo.
Okay.
So Babo is
How do you spell it?
Baubo. And in
Okay.
this deck, she represents the siren of earth. So the author of this deck uses siren instead of page or princess.
Okay.
So, the kind of the more juvenile of the court cards. So she's associated with pentacles. So if you know traditional tarot, you could associate her with the page of pentacles or the princess of pentacles, or just on whatever the earth element is represented by in any particular deck. So Babo, if you look at this figure, you will notice it is women's legs, and then it is it is our private area. It is our hoochie coochie. Her face is on a certain part of the female anatomy.
Yeah.
And so this is Babo. And then her dress is up here. So she's a character right from the get-go, right? Like she has this unique kind of imagery. So there's statues and so on that exist. She was Greek in origin. I should have said that. And so she is the spirit of body woman, but BAWDY, bodiness, like body. I don't know if you know that word.
No,
So
it
she
just
is
makes me think of that song. Body, 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 body.
So she's fun and sexy. She's an old woman. In this deck, she's not depicted as an old woman, but typically she's depicted as an old woman who is in full possession of her sexuality and funny. And she comes in the most famous story involving Baubo is in the Homeric hymn to Demeter. And so Demeter is bemoaning the loss of Persephone, and she's having an identity crisis. And things come to pass, and Demeter is very despondent. And Baubo comes to Demeter and pulls up her skirt and shows what's under the skirt in all of its aged glory, and makes Demeter laugh. And Demeter starts to feel better. And therefore, humanity, it was one important step in getting Persephone back. Well, it was Baubo. It was bodacious. There's another word associated with the same origin. Female sexual humor found in a racy old woman.
I've heard that story before. I love it. It's so good.
Baubo wants us to all be kind of outrageous, sexy, funny,
pussy power,
right? Booty power,
literally
exactly.
goals.
Yeah, so amazing.
Hot old lady.
Love it. Let's do it. Well, thank you so much for that card pull and just spending your time with us today, Cyndi. This was a dream and so fun. You're full of knowledge.
I'm blown away by how much your brain holds.
I know.
It's crazy.
The 7 placements in Gemini really show off. You can tell.
I can barely hold on to like one thought for a second. I'm so impressed by you.
So good. And you had mentioned earlier that you're also writing another book currently.
I am writing a new book. This is a book about Crohn's.
Okay, love that. We need that.
And
that keeps coming up too for us,
right? With the symbolism of like we're all on the journey to cronehood, and how can we reframe the journey as women? We're all getting old, no matter how young we are. We're on our way there. Hopefully we make it, right?
Yeah.
So it's got all kinds of figures in it.
That's exciting.
Like some First Nations figures, such as Zunagwa, and other figures from indigenous figures from North America. Some Asian crone figures, and then some of the ones with some familiar faces like the Morrigan and Caradwin and Baba Yaga. And of course, Hekate shows up.
Amazing.
Not historically an aged goddess, but she is the space of the in-between.
Correct.
Totally.
I love that. So when is this? Are you writing it right now, or is it like in the midst of getting published?
So I am writing it, and it'll be coming out probably late 2027, hopefully for Samhain in 2027.
Oh, perfect. I love that book.
Okay, maybe we'll have you back to talk about it when it's almost ready.
Yeah, so fun.
That would be fun.
Yeah, we really appreciate you. This was so great, and I loved all your practical ways to connect with Hekate right now. I feel really inspired, and I'm going to take that first step. So thanks for inspiring us and all that you do.
Well, thank you again for having me.
This episode has been produced by my husband, Curtis Burgess.
Make sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Waking Up the Witch.
And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please email us at wakingupthewitch@gmail.com.
And don't forget to head over to the link in our bio on Instagram for all the ways to connect with both Amber and Taylar. And go to moonbeeswellness.com for all your self-care and witchy needs. We love you. Bye.
Bye.
Ow. Ow.